Thanks so much for that, David. What we'll do now is we'll give it to Abuna Elijah. What he'll be talking about is the temptations of the flesh. But just a reminder that at the end of the talk, we will be having like an additional Q&A. So the link is in the youth meeting WhatsApp group chat. The link is the www.sli.do, and then it will tell you to put in a code. So put in the code SAQA, and it is anonymous. And Abuna will see those questions and answer them for you. That being said, we'll just call up Abuna Elijah to give the talk.
In the name of the Father, thank you. In the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. It's really nice to be with you guys, and Mabruk on the church. First time for me to see it. It's beautiful. I love it. So today we're going to talk about just a little bit of a how-to guide with relationships, and in the middle of that, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the, like the lusts and desires and things that inevitably happen in a relationship. And I'll try to keep it pretty brief, 20 minutes or so, just to give time for your questions. And I'm really glad that those questions are anonymous, because it's a bit embarrassing to put up and ask about this topic in particular. So please ask, whatever you like. So there's a few things that we're going to talk about. We'll start off talking about when am I ready? Like, how do I know? Now's the time to start thinking about a serious relationship. We'll have a discussion about, what am I looking for in a prospective partner? Third, I think I like somebody. What do I do next? And then finally, we'll talk about, we started kind of going out, like just some do's and some don'ts, some things to keep an eye on. So 4 things that we'll talk about briefly, a few minutes on each one, and then open up for your questions. So the first question is, how do I know that I'm ready? And it's really, really important that you actually ask yourself that question, am I ready? Because a lot of the time, people think that there is a special calling for a life of monasticism, a special calling if you're going to be a nun, a special calling if you're going to dedicate yourself to God, either in one of the orders of the church or as a layperson, and then everybody else just gets married. That's not how it is at all. Marriage is a high calling. It is a calling as well. It is not just the default status. So if you can imagine how much preparation is required for somebody before they approach going to the monastery or approach, like becoming a priest or a nun or a consecrated sister, the same degree of preparation must also be required for marriage. Don't think that it is just the default state. Okay, yeah, I'm 20-something, got a job, let's find a girlfriend so I can get my mum off my back. It's a divine calling. It's not just the default status. Jesus blessed the wedding at Cana of Galilee. At the Transfiguration, 2 people appeared with Christ. Who? Moses and Elijah, for many reasons, one of which is Moses the married and Elijah the unmarried. So God actually blesses them. So you have to know that it is a calling. Even St. Paul, when he speaks about marriage, he talks about Christ and the church. So the relationship between a husband and a wife should mirror the relationship between Christ and the church. Don't tell me that's something that you just, I'm old enough, let's go for it. It is it's a high calling, not just the default state. So, am I ready spiritually? Am I ready to encourage somebody and be encouraged by somebody in our journey to heaven? I have to be ready spiritually. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. That doesn't mean I'm sinless. But it means I'm ready really to take that responsibility, to encourage somebody and to be encouraged by somebody. Am I ready spiritually? In addition to that, there are a lot of other factors to consider. And I don't like saying an age. That's a common question. How old? There are people who are 35 who have the brain of an 18-year-old or a 14-year-old. Okay? And there are people who are 14 who have the brain of a 35-year-old. So don't get too fussed about a particular age. Every person is different. It's good to be guided by your confession father, and it's good to have a number of principles to keep in mind. One of which, of course, is it's very unwise to make long-term decisions with short-term information. You agree with that statement? Don't make a long-term decision with short-term information. So if you are 18 and then you look back at 2 years ago when you were 16 and you think, oh man, can't believe I said that. Can't believe I wore that. Can't believe I thought that. And I promise you, when you're 20, you're going to look back at when you're 18 and say exactly the same thing. So I'm happy for you to be like, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I wore that. But please don't say, I can't believe I married that. Come on. So we need to be spiritually ready, but there needs to be stability in my character, stability in my personality. And we are not usually a very good judge of that for ourselves. I need somebody external to help me with that. Usually it's my confession father. Because when you're too close to something, you can't see it properly. All right? The world teaches us so much. If I've got my phone and it's like that, can't see. When you're too close to something, you can't see it properly. And how true is that of myself sometimes? So my confession father is, really valuable to help me with that. I maybe need to be ready financially, and many other things to consider. So the first thing is, when am I ready? First, remember that marriage is not the default state. It is a high calling and needs spiritual preparation, just like any other calling in the church. Remember to seek the guidance of your confession father. Remember to consider your personality, your character, your psychology, your finances. Your confession father, who is a bit far away, can help you to see what I can't see because I'm too close. All right. The next question is, what am I looking for? And we have to approach this in a mature way and look beyond superficial things. That's not to say that appearance and so on is not important, because you must be physically attracted to your partner. So don't think you're superficial. If one of the girls says, this boy is the best boy ever. He's kind and he loves God and he serves and he's just got a, I don't like his hair. Don't think you're superficial, okay? You must be physically attracted. But we need to find the middle ground. You shouldn't marry somebody who you think, looks very unattractive, but you shouldn't marry somebody who is just a beautiful man, okay? A beautiful woman, and that's it. Just look at them like in a museum, okay? We've got to find the middle ground. So what am I looking for? And the Bible actually tells me a little bit about what to look for. If you have your Bibles, you can open up to Proverbs 31. Okay, Proverbs 31, from 10 to 31, gives us some of the characteristics of a virtuous wife. So from verse 10 it reads, "Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. If we go further, it says, verse 30, charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. And of course, many of these verses apply to the men as well. Don't just look for somebody who is fun, although that's important. Don't just look for somebody who is attractive, although that's important. I need to find the person enjoyable to be around, attractive, but God-fearing, but looking for the poor, but hard-working, diligent. What am I looking for? If you have a wife who's beautiful, she's going to get old. What are you going to do? If you marry a boy who has a good time, he's going to be with his friends playing PlayStation while you're trying to juggle 3 kids at once, putting them to bed. So you need to really think about the future. Is this person going to be a supportive partner, a good person for my spiritual life, a good supporter for children that we hope to raise together? Not just they're funny, I like their dress sense. What am I going to do with that at 3 o'clock in the morning? My baby's sleeping, crying. What are you going to do with that? Right? So, but please remember, it's good that you find that you get along, that you find the person compatible, that you find the person, I'm enjoying their company and I find them physically attractive. But it can't be just that. It should never be just that. Okay. The other really important thing is when you look for somebody who can, when you attend a wedding, try to look and ask yourself, is this prospective partner going to take these commandments seriously and do them? For the boys, is she going to be able to submit to her husband and understand actually what that means in a godly way? And similarly for the girls, is this man going to love me as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her? So attending a wedding is a good chance, whether you're unmarried or married, it's a good chance to think about those commandments, those readings that are given and say, this is the kind of person that I'm looking for, somebody who is ready and willing to listen to these commandments and obey them. One of the fathers from our church told us a story of a couple who were getting married. And the bride said, I hate this verse, this sentence about submit to your husbands. I ain't submitting to anybody, So she told Abuna, I don't want you to pray that. And he said to her, it's not up to you and it's not up to me, Like, what do you mean you don't want me to pray that? And they went to and fro for some time. Until finally the compromise was that he would pray in Arabic, that section, and she doesn't understand. That was the compromise. Smart solution. But then he went to the groom and said to him, can't you see what's going to happen here? Be a man. Unfortunately, he did not be a man. He just accepted it. They got married, and predictably, a very short they split up. Less than 12 months. So find, what am I looking for? Not just somebody funny, somebody attractive, somebody with good dress sense, somebody with a good job, but somebody who is going to, listen to these commandments, understand them, respect them. If they don't understand them, rather than dismiss them, search and try to understand, rather than just kind of be dismissive of it. So what sort of person am I looking for? God-fearing person, you guarantee many other things. And I'm not saying that only Christians can be good spouses. But if you have a God-fearing spouse, you guarantee many other things. If you marry somebody who's not God-fearing, you might be lucky, you might not, I don't know. But if you marry somebody who's God-fearing, they're going to be able to say sorry, which is very important. They're going to have the humility to do whatever task is required. Nothing is beneath me. They're going to respect their spouse and respect their spouse's family. They're going to make themselves uncomfortable to make their partner comfortable. And many other things. So, find somebody God-fearing. Some people ask, do they have to be a Coptic? Do they have to be from the church? Find somebody God-fearing. There are many people in the church, unfortunately, whose hearts and minds are far away from teaching of the church. Doesn't necessarily, but find somebody God-fearing. And there are many cases of people who have married to, outside the church and found very godly people, even more godly than them. And the reverse is also true, unfortunately. People who said, he's a good Coptic boy or a good Coptic girl, but their heart's far from God. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect or she has to be perfect, but our goal has to be the same. Find somebody who's God-fearing, and you'll guarantee many other things in your relationship. If they're not God-fearing, 50-50, if that. So, when am I ready? Marriage is a calling. Seek the guidance of your confession father. Think about personality, socially, financially, psychologically. What am I looking for? Ultimately, a God-fearing person. Okay? But also somebody whose company I enjoy, who I find attractive, who there's compatibility with. Okay. Next, the third of the 4 questions we'll talk about is, so I think I like somebody, what do I do? St. John Chrysostom wrote a beautiful book called On Marriage and Family Life. I highly recommend that you read it. It's a beautiful book. And there's one line which is really nice. St. John Chrysostom, he was a very tough bishop in the 4th century. He used to give it to the people who are rich, who used to just, store up more and more wealth while the, poor people suffered. He was tough. But then he says this line, God is not ashamed to be your matchmaker. The tough bishop from the 4th century said that. God is not ashamed to be your matchmaker. So if you think you like somebody, put it before God. Pray about it. Please God, if this is the right person for me, if this is the right time, then increase my feelings towards them. Make things smooth. Give me comfort. Give me peace. Put it on the altar. Ask your confession father to pray for you. And it's very important that you're praying throughout. Because if somebody is praying, then God really, really refines my desires. Like a short while ago, just after I prayed the Mass with one of the fathers, somebody came and spoke to me. And I was a bit tough with them. And I felt that they needed that. But then I felt bad because they were upset. But, not really there to make everybody happy. So I went to the other Abuna who I prayed the Mass with. I didn't really give him any details. I just said, let's pray for me, Abuna. I'm not really sure if I did the right thing. I was a bit tough with somebody. And he actually didn't even listen to any details. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, you've just prayed the liturgy. You've just been in the presence of God. You just go. Right? With full confidence. It's like, don't you want to know? And he didn't. Just get out of here. And he was absolutely right. The person I was very tough with, made a decision, the right decision, a short time later, and was even apologetic when they didn't need to be. So there's a special power that we get from being in God's presence, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. So be in God's presence. Pray. Put it on the altar. And if you consistently feel peaceful, feel happy, feel excited for the next step, then that's a very good sign. If you pray and you put it on the altar and then it's just doubts and I'm uncertain and man, this is moving too fast, just slow down, then that's a worry. So God is not ashamed to be your matchmaker. You would be crazy to try to make a decision like this without putting it on the altar, without asking God to reveal His will to you. So if you think you like somebody, you must pray. You should talk to your confession father as well. And your confession father knows you, can guide you, may know the person as well and give his opinion about compatibility. Don't try to do this alone. And again, if God is not ashamed to be your matchmaker, then your confession father is not ashamed to be your matchmaker as well. It's supposed to be symbolic of Christ on earth. You know, that's why Abuna wears the crown, the mitre, during the liturgy. It's like the crown is symbolic of Christ. And, you know, it's okay. Abuna is there to support you. It's not easy, and it's a huge decision. And everybody needs different amount of support, and just be free to ask what you need when you need. Some people just ask at the milestones, right? Abuna, first date, okay, God be with you. Abuna, we're going well, we're meeting the parents, okay. Other people are like, how do I respond to this text? And that's fine as well. Especially if it's the first time that you do it, receive that support. Why not? Why not? And you're blessed in this church. Have beautiful fathers, godly fathers, fathers who have been through this themselves and with countless others. So it would be a shame not to make use of that support that we have. So pray, talk to your confession father. Possibly you start to get to know the person in a group setting. So don't most people, especially I think girls, don't really like it if a secret admirer pops out of nowhere and asks them out. Whoa. So get to know them a little bit, talk to them. These days there's a lot of online mediums that you can use, and you can gauge a little bit if there is a mutual feeling or not. Right? But if you're getting nothing, okay, then it may be time to reconsider. Of course, be serious. Don't ever start a relationship with the intention that it's going nowhere or I'm just going to have fun. Don't ever talk to 5 people at once seriously, thinking, oh, I'm not really dating anybody. God punishes that. God punishes that, really. Really God punishes that. Don't, it can really affect relationships forever. Don't break people's hearts. Don't be fair to people. Be honest with people. And this is not biblical. This is my opinion, okay, which you can agree or disagree with. But my opinion is that people around your age shouldn't really be talking to the opposite gender frequently unless there is a purpose. Right? If you're serving together, if you're studying together, if you're working, okay. But just get having a chat. He's my best friend. She's my best friend. It's not really suitable for a few reasons. Number one is that somebody might think, okay, look, it's just a friendship. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, man, that's what you think. How on earth do you know what's going on from her end? And you're torturing somebody. That's certainly possible. Another possibility, of course, is that, okay, if it is completely platonic, friendship, what happens when one of you has a relationship? Yeah? For the girls, right? Imagine you're dating somebody and then you say, oh, hey, can we go to the movies today? No, I'm going to the movies with Melissa, my best friend. Okay, go and hang out with Melissa. See you later. What are you going to do with that? So don't, especially at your age. Especially at your age. And again, that's not biblical. That's just something personal, and I strongly believe it. Because although you may have no feelings or claim to have no feelings, the other person, you have no idea. And then what happens when there's a relationship in the future? And it can even be a deterrent. Like if a male and female have a very, very close friendship, and then somebody else is interested, and they think, well, I don't really know where I stand and where they stand, and it can be a deterrent. So be wise. You can be friends with the opposite gender, but you don't have to talk to them 3 hours a night about absolutely everything. Okay, and so we'll just finish with, all right, so we may kind of started going out. What do we do? I'll just go quickly through these. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list, and it's a huge topic, and each person's situation is personal. So again, it's so important to talk to your confession father. But put God in your midst. Don't compartmentalize your life. Don't think that I've got my service and my spiritual life, and I've got work or study and family time and relationship time. Don't compartmentalize your life. One of the fathers put it nicely. He said, sometimes we look at life as a pie, and there's the work slice and all the different slices of the pie, including the God slice. But a better way of looking at it is that, yes, I've got those slices, but God is the filling of that pie. Yeah, and God is in my workplace. I do it for His glory. And God is in my study, and I do to the best of my ability in a godly way. And God is in my relationship, and God is, dictating my relationships with my family, and so on. So put God in your midst. Pray together. Read the Bible. Attend liturgies together. You may even, come and see Abuna together, although you don't have to. Some people come and say, I don't know, and we see other couples doing that. Should we do that? You don't have to, just because everyone else is doing it. If there's a need, there's a need. So put God in the midst. If you're going out, what's wrong with, if you're going for a walk, stopping, reading something, praying something together for 7 minutes, and then continuing? Put God in your midst. If you've just started going out, watch your purity. And this is like something that was alluded to earlier. Watch your purity for many reasons. Number one, it's displeasing to God. Number two, it's a slippery slope. The first time you might hold hands, zap, the electricity, unbelievable. After a while, that's nothing, and it's a slippery slope. Another really important reason is that some people say, look, what's the big deal, if we, do what we do, we're going to get married anyway. Firstly, you don't know. But secondly, you have to remember that marriage is a sacrament, and the Holy Spirit comes down and does something mysterious and makes those two into one. And there's a very, very simple way of looking at it is like the sacrament of priesthood. Okay? Imagine one day before Abuna's ordination, before Abuna becomes a priest, he rocks up to church in jeans and a t-shirt, and he just prays at the altar standing, and everybody relax, I'm going to be a priest tomorrow. Would that be acceptable to you? Would that look okay to you? Would it feel okay? Is it acceptable? Of course not. The sacrament hasn't been completed yet. So the same applies in the relationship. The other really important thing is that getting physical in a relationship can poison it in the future, because a lot of the time, if I'm affectionate with somebody, then I feel guilty. And that can be very hard to shake. And what a great shame it would be if you have a married couple who still has this guilt, or even worse, you see that person again the next day or a week later, and the person who should be the object of your desire and of your joy becomes actually a symbol of my shame and of my embarrassment and of my sin. So it can really, really poison the relationship. Also, it can make a dead-end relationship last longer than it should, because boy and girl are not compatible. They don't see eye to eye on anything. The relationship has no future. But we see each other and we kiss and it feels good, so let's keep doing that. And the relationship that should end in maybe a few weeks ends up 6 to 12 months with a lot more heartache than is necessary. I can't see clearly when that physical touch is there. So if I'm in a relationship and I have made physical mistakes, talk to your confession father, talk to the other person, and reset. And God makes all things new. Reset. Okay, and God will bless your relationship. So if you started to go out, put God in your midst and watch your purity. Also, if you start talking on the phone, going on dates, whatever, remember it has a purpose. So at the beginning of a relationship, there may be a lot of excitement, which is good, it's healthy, it's a good sign. But the point of this period is not just to have a good time. It's to get to know each other better, to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, to see who's the spender and who's the saver, to see, what are they like when they are tired? What are they like when they're angry? What are they like So your dates have a purpose. So if the time that you spend together is just watching a movie, at the cinema, and then going back home and one of you falls asleep because you've had a long day, you could do that once a week for the next 6 months. You're getting nowhere. So the point of this period is not just to have a good time, but there's a purpose. So don't forget the purpose of the period. Don't forget. It's like somebody who goes, I'm going to go to the gym. 1 hour, every day for the next 6 months. And then I go to the gym. Have you seen these people at the gym who have no purpose? They go and they talk to their friend and they play with their phone and they'll do half a set on some other thing, and then they'll go into the treadmill, and this guy can be at the gym, for the next 5 years, nothing's going to happen. You've got to go with purpose. Your dates are not just to have fun, there's purpose. Your conversations are not just for fun, but there must be purpose. There should be fun as well, right? But not only fun, there's a purpose. This one may seem obvious. Tell your parents. So don't tell me I'm going to start a serious relationship and we think that this relationship may end in marriage, but my dad's going to kill me. Talk to your confession father. There may be some really exceptional circumstances where it's wise not to tell one of the parents, but that's not very common. If my daughter comes and tells me one day, I'd like you to meet this guy, hello, welcome, and I've been talking to him for the last 6 months and now I'm introducing him to you, I'm going to say, nice to meet you, get out of here. How does that make the father feel or the mother feel that their child has now been scared to tell me something, lying about where they are, what they're doing? If you're serious from the beginning, you have to tell your parents, especially if you live with them, which most of you do, I imagine. But if you think that absolutely I can't do that, then ask the guidance of your confession father. There may be some exceptional circumstances, but that's certainly not the usual thing. Talk often, and hopefully you will disagree. One of the beautiful things that you hear sometimes, like, oh, do you guys get along? Yeah, we've never had a fight. God, that's really nice. But you don't know anything yet. It's not, you don't want to be with somebody that you disagree with often. Like, that relationship can potentially work, but it's going to be kind of hard work. It's going to be tiring. What's important is not necessarily how often you disagree, but not how often you fight, but how actually you fight. How do you disagree? Things to look out for. When we disagree, are there raised voices? Is it hostile? Are there swear words? When we disagree, do we bring up the dirty laundry from 6 months ago, or are we focused on the current issue? When we disagree, do they attack my character? When we disagree, do you get silent treatment for a day, a week, a month? So all of these things we need to know, we need to watch out for, because what happens during this period, generally people are on their best behavior. It's a predictor of what's going to happen later on. So talk often, and it's a watch and see what happens when you disagree. And the final thing is work hard at the relationship, but not too hard. Work hard, but not too hard. A very good piece of advice that one of the fathers gave me is we don't solve the problems of engaged couples. If an engaged couple has an issue that they feel they need to come and receive counseling about, once, okay. Twice, 3 times, 4 times, okay guys, are we doing this forever? So you work hard, but not too hard. I'll give you an example. One couple recently, the man works hard and he doesn't have access to his phone. And his partner feels like she's a second priority, that she's not loved. And there's a bit of a mismatch there. He says, of course I love you and I care about you and you're my whole world and I can't wait to finish work to talk to you, but I can't pull out my phone every hour or two and say hello. And she feels that, well, I'm clearly not that important. So there's a mismatch here. Is this relationship destined to fail? No. It's possible that the girl may adapt, understand, realize, and accept it. Fine. It's possible that the boy may also make more of an effort. Say, okay, I don't. That's not how it is. I do care about you, but if me not responding to your text for 6 hours makes you feel like you're a low priority, I will make an effort. Could work. But the problem is, if the girl doesn't really change, or if the boy changes, but he finds it exhausting. My drainer, fiance, oh my God, enough. Just can't breathe. So work hard. It's okay. It's okay for that fiance to adapt to that situation and work hard. But not too hard. It shouldn't feel like it's always an effort. Because that's going to get old very, very quickly. And that's why there's different compatibilities. One boy might be fine with that. And be happy to do that. Another boy might feel like, no, I can't breathe. So it's important to work hard, but not too hard. It shouldn't be an effort all the time. Sometimes, yes, but not all the time, especially during the engagement period. So I'll just quickly summarize and then open up to your questions. And Father Paul is with us, so it would be great, Abuna, if you can share, please. So when am I ready? Marriage is a calling. I must be ready spiritually. My personality must be stable, socially, financially. Get the guidance of your confession father. What am I looking for? Ultimately, a God-fearing person. Yes, attractive. Yes, fun to be around. All of those things are important. But if you have a God-fearing person, many of those other things will be guaranteed. Think about how the Bible describes a virtuous partner, the promises that are made during the marriage service. I like someone. What do? Pray, talk to your confession father, get to know them a little bit. Be serious, okay? Because God punishes those who mistreat and are dishonest in their relationships. And finally, if you're going out, just remember, put God in your midst. Watch your purity. It's not just fun. Your dates have a purpose. Tell your parents, talk often, see how you disagree, work hard but not too hard. This is not exhaustive, of course. So if you have a specific question, then it would be wise to go and talk to your confession father. Now, do you guys have any questions or anything that you'd like to add? There's questions up there. Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, there's a lot. Okay, what if I like someone and they don't like me back? How do I get over it? Asking for a friend. That's a really good question. So, if the person doesn't like you back, then there are like a couple of important things. Number one, and you pray for God's comfort. And also you have to have 3 things to get over somebody: prayer, time, and distance. And I believe all 3 are important. If you're praying about something like this, you're not going to get over it in 5 minutes. If you're praying about something like this, but like in the same social circles, seeing each other every single day, it's going to be very difficult. So a period of this combination is important: prayer, time, and distance. The other thing that's really important is, like, remember that one of the most beautiful things in marriage is this feeling that I'm loved unconditionally by my partner. It's really special. One of my goofy friends, he made me laugh once, and he said, I love that I'm married, because now that if everyone else thinks I'm like the biggest dork, my wife thinks I'm the best. He's a dork, like. So, okay, let's say you somehow manage to make this relationship work, and you win. What did you win? A wife or a husband who doesn't really like you. Good job. Why? So don't just think like, don't just leave, I'm sad. Leave with your head held high, saying that, God has prepared for me somebody who loves me unconditionally. And I don't want to settle for anything less. That's why if there's a relationship breakdown, I'm personally not a huge fan of people crying and begging for the person back and all this, trying to rescue the relationship and all these kind of things. God has prepared for me somebody who loves me unconditionally. Why should I settle for anything less than what my Father in heaven has organized for me? So prayer, time, and distance, and just remember your worth in the eyes of God. You deserve somebody to love you unconditionally, not somebody to be like, okay, fine. Okay? What if I never find that person, but I want to get married? Remember, God is not ashamed to be your matchmaker. So this is a hypothetical. What if I never? Just worry about building yourself up today. Focus on your spiritual life today. Focus on building yourself up in every way that you can now. And that time is never going to be wasted. That effort is never going to be wasted. It will be useful for whichever path that you take later on. So don't let the devil play tricks on you and say, what if it never happens? So do not worry about tomorrow. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Be faithful today. Okay. Is there... Sorry. What if I have a pornography addiction and looking to get married? A really beautiful question. And it's really important actually that we understand that marriage is not the cure to this problem. And by the way, this happens in both males and females. Marriage, some people think, look, I just, watch pornography now, and when I get married, then there'll be no need anymore because my sexual desires can be satisfied. But actually marriage doesn't solve the problem, it actually magnifies it. For many reasons which we won't get into today. So, talk to your confession father, cling to God. Be strict with yourself. I was shocked the other day, to find one of the boys, 19 years old in our church, who's struggling with a pornography addiction, and you know what his solution was? I don't have a phone anymore. Man, I was almost like, are you sure? So cling to your confession father, but be ready to take drastic action. Be ready to say, if it's a certain device, I'm going to give up that device. If it's a habit, which is most commonly having the device in my room, then I'm going to make a commitment that that device never enters my room ever, even if it's inconvenient. If it's when the door is closed, then I will make a commitment that I'll not close the door, not lock the door at least, so that there's a chance that somebody could come in at any time. And I sacrifice convenience and privacy for the sake of God. So don't think that marriage is going to solve this problem. Actually, it magnifies it. And so I really need to, work on it from now. And this is not something that needs a combination as well of God's grace, but also it needs my strong effort. And remember Proverbs 24, which defines a righteous person. Don't think that a righteous person is one who never falls, but rather one that falls 6 times and gets up 7. It's not just from Rocky movies, it's biblical. So righteous is the one who falls and gets up. Not righteous is the one who never fell. Okay? That's really important. Okay. I was told to look for someone that is on the same spiritual level as myself. Is that wrong to do? Look, it's definitely good to be compatible spiritually. But that doesn't necessarily mean to be at the same spiritual level, because how do I assess that? And if there was a way to assess it objectively, how can we find 2 people who are in exactly the same spiritual level? Think about 2 people at the same physical level, or the same academic level, or the same social level, or the educational. So it's a bit abstract to say 2 people on exactly the same spiritual level. What is important is that we have the same values and the same goals. We both have a relationship with our confession father. We're both serious about attending church. We both want to be servants in the church. And we prioritize that. You don't want to be in a relationship where there's someone that wants to come to the Mass and someone who's always being lazy. Where somebody is saying, okay, no, we have to watch our purity and we have to be careful. And someone is saying, oh, come on, it's not a big deal. Right? So it's not so much being at the same spiritual level, but just having the same orientation towards God, the same goal. Or said in another way, if you've got a car, and then I say to you, all right, guys, we're going to carpool, right? And I'm going back to St. Mark's. Hop in with me. But then one of you says, no, look, I've got to go and meet a friend, over at St. Bernard, Blacktown. And I say, all right, no problems. But we still want to carpool with you. Mate, I'm going to St. Mark's. You want to go to Blacktown. It doesn't make sense for us to carpool. So this is a very important thing, like analogy to be aware of. I'm not saying that the person is bad or good. But I'm going in one direction. You're going in another direction. And we're going to carpool. Something's got to give. Either we both have to agree on one direction, or we've got to say, sorry, buddy, we can't carpool. And that's not just of relationships, with a spouse, but even with friends. It's not about who's good and bad. But it's about agreeing where is the direction that we're heading. Okay, is there an appropriate age gap between male and female? Is there a limit? And if so, what is it? So again, there's no hard and fast rules. It's generally preferable for the male to be older, but not absolutely necessary. I wouldn't recommend personally, a significant age gap where the girl is older than the boy for many reasons. Pope Shenouda was not a fan of that at all. He's quoted as saying. But if it's a short time, 6 months, 1 year, maybe it's okay. But I certainly wouldn't, if I was a boy, I wouldn't encourage you to date somebody who's 5 years older than you. Regarding the other way, again, there's no hard and fast rules. I personally think an age gap is healthy, a few years. Probably not more than 10. Right? That would but that's a rule of thumb. Every case is different. So if the girl is older, I would suggest not more than a year. If the boy is older, probably 10 would be the absolute maximum. That doesn't apply if you're 19 years old. Okay. Alrighty. What if we are getting to know somebody in a group setting and we want to be by ourselves? So make your intentions clear. Right? So if you're a boy and you kind of feel like, okay, we've got as far as we can in a group setting and I feel like I really want to go further, be brave. Be brave. Make your intentions clear. I'd like to get to know you better. Would it be okay if I gave you a call? Or would it be okay if we just went for a coffee? Be brave. Make your intentions clear. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But again, remember those other steps of am I ready, being prayerful, involving my confession father. But don't muck around in a group for 5 years, in 2 or 3 conversations one-on-one, you'll find out as much as you will in 5 years talking in a group setting for a few minutes once a week. Okay? Can you explain or reiterate the point of people being careful the way they interact with the opposite sex, confusing the other person? Yeah, so it's quite common that people will come and say, Abuna, I think this guy or this girl likes me. And I'll say, well, what makes you say that? And then their response will be, well, they really kind of open up to me about everything. I feel like I'm their best friend. I feel like they tell me stuff that nobody else knows. They open up to me, and we talk all the time, every day. It's not healthy to do that if you're not serious about actually progressing somewhere. So please, don't open up to somebody and don't make them feel like you know everything about me, you're a very special person to me, if there's no thought in your mind that might progress. It's not fair to you and it's not fair to that person. And especially if you're doing that with a few people at once, which unfortunately some of the youth do. I don't think they're malicious, I think they're just naive. I think I'm just friends. I'm just friends with people and I just talk at the... So, a very, very simple thing, don't let anybody feel like they have a special place with you. I tell you things I don't tell anybody. You know stuff about me that no one else knows about. We talk often, you're the first person. That kind of relationship, that depth of relationship should be with one significant other. Okay, I feel it's best to get to know somebody in circumstances, for example, service, group trips. How do you do this if you can't get both of you in these scenarios? So look, yes, that is good to kind of get to know somebody in a group setting first, but it's not always possible. And these days, there are people who kind of get to know somebody from another church, somebody from work, and more people actually are getting to know people online, which is again, it's there's nothing biblical that says that you shouldn't do that, but maybe extra precautions are required. So it's not absolutely necessary for that to happen, for you to know the person really well before you actually start a relationship. What's more important is actually once you've started, how are you feeling? Don't worry too much about, I don't know what their family is like, I don't know what their history is, I don't know. After you've kind of got to know the person for a little while, you should really be able to answer that for yourself. And if you're not able to answer it, then there's something up. Something is wrong. Okay? So it's easier, definitely, if there's a bit of a group setting, but it's not necessary. There are lots of people who have been married to somebody that initially they weren't in the same social circles at all. Is it okay to break off a serious relationship, even if it will hurt the other person severely because of doubts? Very good question. You should never stay in a relationship out of sympathy. You should never stay in a relationship out of sympathy. This is perhaps one of the only decisions in your life where a little bit you need to be selfish. This is advice that my confession father gave me. A little bit. After marriage, you give yourself to your wife and you sacrifice your life for her, but before, sacrifice your life for your fiancé. So you need to be a little bit selfish. Is this person compatible? Is this person going to make me happy? And sometimes there can be even emotional blackmail of a relationship that's not working, and then one party says, if you leave me, I don't know what I'm going to do. Or they cry. Or if you leave me, I'm going to commit suicide. And so people continue. Don't stay in a relationship like that. Don't stay, if you have doubts, and they're serious doubts, and they're doubts that have been tested by prayer, and they are doubts that have been discussed with your confession father, if you've kind of decided, okay, that's it, I'm out, be out. And then the emotional wreckage that may be left, that's not your problem to solve. And in fact, if you try to solve it, you make the problem worse. Because the person is very attached to you. And now, in the height of their distress, you're trying to comfort them. Come on. So usually what happens, if somebody comes to me with that scenario, and I'll tell them, okay, if you're ready to break up, and I will follow up with the other person. That's my job. That's not your job. Never stay in a relationship out of sympathy, out of doubt, out of guilt. It's not fair to you, and it's really not fair to the other person as well. Even though they can't see it in that moment, but it's really not fair to them. Imagine how you would feel if you were dating somebody or engaged to somebody and they weren't all in, but they were kind of just there because they felt guilty or because they didn't want to upset you. Come on. Be fair to yourself and be fair to the other person. What is correct? That there is the one for me, or God has given us choices, and if we are with God, we'll bless our choice. Actually, I'm not sure about the answer to this question. Is there only one perfect person for me? I'm not 100% sure. But what I do know is that if you are God-fearing, then there's a promise in the Psalms of the 9th hour that the Lord will perfect that which concerns me. The Lord will perfect that which concerns me. Anything that comes near me, anything that, God will make it perfect. So this is a very philosophical question, but if you are God-fearing, then you can rest assured that your marriage will be blessed. Yeah. Do you want to philosophize about marriage, or do you want to have a happy and successful and blessed marriage? So I don't know, but what I do know is if you are loyal to God, He will bless you. And there's so many examples of that in the Bible and in our churches today. What do I do if the girl I like got a new boyfriend? You be honourable. You be honourable and you back away. And you pray for God to bless them and to guide them, and then God will bless you. So I guess we have to behave in a Christian way. Are there any other questions or comments or anything that you'd like to add? Or any questions that I missed? Somebody just asked, I think maybe they're trolling me. My mate took my girl, I'm furious. What should I do? Okay, I think from that reaction, maybe they're trolling me. So I'll just keep going. St. Paul says it is better to get married than it is to burn in passion and desire. What if I look at marriage as a scapegoat and use my wife as a tool of desire? Then that's a problem. St. Paul said that as a concession. It would be a great shame if I look at my wife or my husband only as a tool to satisfy my physical desire. Yeah, that would be a great shame. Because even intimacy in marriage needs to be godly, and needs to be actually preoccupied with the other. So this is a misunderstanding of the depth of marriage. So when you think about Christ giving himself for the church, does Christ look at the church as an object for his own gratification? The church praises me, the church, not at all. All he thinks about is sacrificing himself for the church. So read Ephesians chapter 5, read Sir John Chrysostom's book on marriage and family life, and you'll dig a little bit deeper into the depth of marriage, really. It's a lot more than just intimacy. How long do you feel a relationship should be kept private before going public? Talk to your confession father. Every situation is different. Some people do that because for, fear of people finding out, and if it doesn't work out and I have 7 or 8 false starts, it starts to not look very good. But talk to your confession father about that. Every situation is different. There are some families who don't like that at all. There are some families who want a ring on the finger before you even go on a first date. So every situation is different. It depends on your family, and your fathers can help to navigate that, definitely. If your family wants you guys to get engaged before you go on your first date, Abuna can just be like, sorry uncle, we don't do that here, and they can help you out. Okay. So, yeah, I've been in some interesting conversations about that. Okay. All right, I'll just leave it there. Do you guys have any final questions or comments? Okay, glory be to God forever. Amen. Thank you for having me.